In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I was able to pass my PLAB 2 in my first attempt. Are you ready? Hi there, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if it's your first time here, my name is Dr. Busola Deborah, and I film about my journey to becoming a doctor. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I was able to pass my PLAB 2 in my first attempt. So just for context, PLAB is known as the Professional and Linguistic Assessment Board Test, which is done by international medical graduates in order to be licensed in the United Kingdom. And in 2024, it's going to be changed to the UKMLA, which is the United Kingdom Medical Licensing Assessment. If you want me to do a video on the differences between these two, please let me know in the comment section. A little backstory, I did my PLAB 1 in February 2023 and I got results in March. If you want to see a video on how I was able to pass that, I'll leave a video right here, so please go check it out. Immediately I saw my results, I was so happy, and I already saved up for PLAB 2 because I was positive I was going to pass my PLAB 1. So I booked it immediately I saw my results, and the earliest date I saw was in September, so that was September 27 this year. And I felt like, okay, it wasn't a bad date because I was not really in a rush, and at the same time it was not too early, like it was just a perfect time, to be honest. So I booked for it, and at that point that was like 6 months away, so I felt like, okay, I had more than enough time to prepare for it. But that is the one dangerous thing about having a long time to do something, because as humans we just feel like, oh, there's time, so we kind of leave it for last minute. So I was making my research about how to prepare for the exam and all, but I didn't really put in so much effort until around July. I started joining more groups. It was in August I really paid so much attention to it, and I'll say like in like about a bit over a month, that was when I was really serious about the preparation. So that's like how long it took me to study for the exam. So I'm going to be sharing strategies on how to study for this exam, and I think what can work based on what I've experienced. So as for any exam and anything at all you want to be successful at in life, you need to understand the structure and you need to understand how it works. So the first step is understanding the structure of the exam. So that was what I was paying so much attention to at the beginning. So I'm just going to be talking briefly about the structure of the exam, but if you want me to go more in depth, please leave it in the comment section below so I can make a dedicated video about the entire format of the exam. So the examination is an OSCE type of examination where you have someone acting as a patient and then you are the doctor. It's kind of a simulated scenario where they want to test how well you can relate to patients and manage them. It consists of 18 stations, 2 of which are rest stations. So the stations are basically like different rooms where you go in and out of, and in each room you meet different scenarios and you are being tested on how you handle the situation in that particular station. And you are being assessed on 3 domains. So that is data gathering, how well you are able to gather data; interpersonal skills, how well you relate to the patient or colleague or student or anyone, basically how well you relate to people; and the last part will be like the management, how well you manage a condition or a situation. And in each of those domains there are 4 marks, so a total of 12 marks for one station. And in order to pass the PLAB 2 exam, you need to pass a total of 10 stations and you need to score above the cutoff mark. So if, for example, you have 10 stations but you don't have up to the cutoff mark, you still fail the exam. If you have up to the cutoff mark and you don't pass up to 10 stations, then you still fail the exam. So it's about finding the balance between 2 of them. So what I did in the initial stage of my preparation was joining a lot of groups. So I joined different groups in order to get different information, like to understand what the exam is about, to understand the structures of the exam, to understand how to go about it. So just basically me researching, asking people questions, reaching out to people, asking them what they thought about the exam, because I feel every year like there are so many differences. And if you're able to come in contact with somebody who is actually writing the exam the same time as you, like it makes so much sense because the situations surrounding the exam are the same at the time, and then you get first-hand information. Initially, when I would talk to people, they would explain the entire thing and it would just look like, oh my god, what is this person saying? Because it felt so vague, it felt so big because I was not in it yet. But the more I listened to people talk about the scenarios, most of these groups are in such a way that someone acts as the patient, that's the simulator, and someone acts as the doctor. The patient would act like, oh, I've come with a problem. Then the doctor would be asking, what problem do you have? Trying to figure out what exactly is wrong and how to manage the situation. So it kind of helped listening to people and understanding the dynamics of how the exam goes. And moving forward, like what I would suggest after listening a lot to people is like creating your own smaller group, because sometimes people don't want to talk in large groups. Maybe they are shy, maybe they are scared. But if you're able to like form a group of, let's say, 5 people, when you guys can just talk about the scenarios and like correct each other, it really makes a lot of sense. Like one thing you should not do is just assume that, oh, you understand because people are talking. People talking and people doing are actually two different things. So you might feel like you know, but try to talk first. You might not really know. So please don't shy away from talking. Don't shy away from presenting cases so that you can get better at them. There are actually so many materials out there. After coming across a lot of notes, I just felt like it's okay to stick to one. Like you don't have to use all the notes because it can be overwhelming. It's just like having different producers of the same knowledge. So like just look around and see the one that works best for you and stick to it. Like so going forward, practice is really important. Like practice, 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 practice until you are dreaming of your GMC number in your head. Because every time you enter a station, like you have to say your GMC number, and you already have a GMC number if you booked your exam, so you can find your GMC number on your booking confirmation. When you are trying to log into your GMC online account, like you use your GMC number to log in and your password. That's the number you're going to use throughout your medical profession as a doctor in the UK. You need to touch on everything. Like you listen a bit, you present a bit, you go back to your book, you study a bit. So it's more like finding a pattern that works for you and not just sticking to one. When I was preparing for my exam, like there were days where I just felt like, oh, people are discussing these cases, I'm not there. Like it just felt like I wanted to be everywhere at the same time. You might feel that way at some point, but trust me, that is okay. That is a normal feeling. You just have to reorganize your thoughts and look at your weak points, look at where you feel like you're lacking and work on those points rather than following the crowd. Like at the end of the day, you all paid for the exam separately and you're not going into those stations together, you're going alone. So think about you, think about what you are lacking and how you can work towards it. And when I started preparing, I told you guys like I waited to like 9 minutes. I underestimated the amount of material that needed to be studied. So I felt like, okay, I could do it within this particular period of time, which I eventually did. But I was just feeling like I wanted to go over all the cases to be confident I will pass the exam. But I ended up not going over all the cases and I still passed. So what I took out from that is that having a structure of how the exam goes and how you are going to approach any scenario is more important than knowing all the cases. Because if you know all the cases and you just cram them, what if they don't bring the cases that you know and they bring like an entirely new case? Like, what are you going to do then? One thing about the UK is that they are more patient centered. Like the hospital care is more patient centered. They want to know how well you're able to address why exactly this patient has come, not really treating this patient because he has fever. So it's like approaching different scenarios individualistic, not just using a general approach on every person that comes. So as a side tip, just keep asking, is there any other thing you'd like me to address today? You are being tested on how you can be a safe doctor rather than how much knowledge you have. You've passed your PLAB 1, so they know you have knowledge, but now it's like your attitude, your character as a person. Are you able to be a safe doctor? Do you care about your patients? Do you put their needs first? Most of us are doctors, we've interacted with patients, so like it's not something entirely new. And if you are not yet a doctor and you want to write the exam, like you can still do that as well. Like in my case, I never really practiced as a medical doctor before I wrote my PLAB, but I was still able to do the exam. So don't feel like, oh, I'm the only one that does not know, I don't know anything. Everyone feels that way, but don't talk yourself down. Don't believe you cannot do it. Be the positive person. Be the person that talks light into your situation when everyone is saying something otherwise. There were days that actually I was feeling so down. I felt like, oh, I could not do it. I had to like write it down in the paper I was studying, like, oh, I'm so tense, I'm so anxious. Like, if it requires you to do things like that, please go ahead to do it. Anything that will make you feel better and not talk down on yourself. Let me even show you guys the book I wrote it. So this was the book I was jotting in when I was studying, and this was like the whole page of what I wrote that day because I was really stressed. Looking at it now, I'm just smiling. Okay, so I wrote, today is 18th August and my exam is on the 27th of September. how I am feeling is very valid, and I'm going to leave this here so I can come back after checking my results in October and being happy that it came out well. Like, I just wrote that because I was hopeful that it would come out well. Another frequently asked question is, do you need an academy to be able to pass PLAB 2? To be honest, that is not a very straight answer because I feel everyone's circumstances is different depending on your finances, depending on your level of knowledge, depending on your communication skills. I personally did an academy. The major reason I did it was because I wanted to have access to physical mocks. I felt like I was not so confident in terms of like my communication skills, and I did not want to go to the examination hall and be shocked. So I just wanted to like have a trial of what the exam is like before actually going into it. I paid for an academy that had 3 different mocks in person. At the end of the day, when I was going for the exam, it just felt like it was the mock I was doing all over again, and I was much more confident. Like, it was just so refreshing. Like, that was my major reason for going to an academy. But in terms of like learning resources, most of the things I learned were actually online. Most of my study partners were online. It was not really the academy that held me to study, if you get what I mean. It's basically if you think you can afford it. Some people go for online mocks, some people go for offline mocks. I feel everyone is individualistic and it's not a one size fits all kind of situation. But it was definitely helpful doing the mocks. And another thing that was helpful about the academy was meeting people and practicing procedures in person. There were different procedures that needed to be practiced, like how to use an otoscope, how to use an ophthalmoscope, how to do a speculum examination, how to do a pap smear, things like that. But if you're already working as a doctor, you probably know all these things and you can watch videos about it if you think you can afford an academy. But if you can't, like, it's nice to come there in person. Like, it just makes you more confident going into the examination hall, not being surprised, knowing that, oh, I've seen this before and I've done it before, and I'm more likely to do it properly compared to when you don't have any idea about it. So it was during the last days of my preparation, about 2 weeks to my exam, that I actually went to Manchester. The academy I did was in Manchester, and I stayed there with a friend. Shout out to you, Team Nazar, for hosting me during that period. And we're also practicing together. So that was like the time I had like physical practice. So I'm going to talk about some mistakes to avoid while preparing for your PLAB 2 examination. So the first one that I see a lot of people do is focusing on the medical topics a lot and neglecting other types of scenarios. So like I mentioned, like I did a lot of practice groups and people were mostly talking about medical stuff. But as part of the exam, we have other types of stations and scenarios like procedure stations, like Seaman. Seaman is like a simulated mannequin. So it's like a mannequin, but it can talk. You can listen to the pulses, you can listen to the heart rate. You can basically listen to like some things that a real human can do. It can't necessarily move. So that's what a simulated mannequin is. We also have prescription stations as well. So what I noticed is like most people just keep focusing on the medical ones and leave the other ones out. And in my opinion, those ones are really high yield because you will definitely see prescription in an examination. You most likely see a seaman, you most likely see a procedure station. So like there should just be a balance in how the whole preparation is, because if you're not well informed, if you're not with the right group of people, you might miss out on like the important point. So while I was preparing for my prescription stations, I actually printed out the prescription paper. So like this is just one type of prescription paper that they have. They have a lot. So like actually practicing and writing them on pen and paper saved me a lot, because during the real exam I already had an idea what to feel, what mistakes to avoid. So like it just saved me a lot of times. That is something you should definitely look into. So we have like 2 different type of prescriptions. We have one with patients in the room. We have another one with a patient not in the room. And the one I got on my exam day was when there was no patient in the room. So it was basically me and my paper. And it was so sweet. So imagine I did not prepare for my prescription. That's how I would have lost a very good opportunity to get an extra station. Another mistake to avoid is not leaving your culture behind. You know, the UK is a very diverse country and people are coming from all over the world to work as a doctor in the UK. And there are a lot of cultural differences wherever you're coming from and in the UK. So understanding the culture in the UK really helps a lot, and it will really be helpful to like keep your mindset about how medicine should be practiced away and like just stick to how they want it to be. Like I mentioned earlier, in the UK, it's all about the patient-centered care. They want the patient to be satisfied when they leave. That is kind of how they gauge that you are a good doctor, how you're able to handle when a patient is angry, how you're able to handle patient relatives, how you're able to relate to your colleagues. There are ways that it is done in the UK. So learning these ways and leaving behind what you've always known is going to really be helpful in the exam. Another mistake to avoid is not believing in yourself. This exam can seem scary, can seem daunting, like knowing how much you've put into it, knowing the cost of the exam itself, the cost of having to fly around if you are not in the UK, the cost of accommodation, the cost of the academy, like a lot of things have gone into the exam. So sometimes you just get so overwhelmed and you feel like, can I really do this? Like, because it feels like there's so much things that have gone into it. I just want to reassure you that you can do it. I'm rooting for you, and I can't wait to hear your testimonies in the comment section of you coming back to say that you've passed your exam. That would really gladden my heart. Another mistake to avoid is keeping to yourself and not asking for help. I mean, like I said, this examination is a lot of investment. So you just assuming that, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. Let me just do it this way. That is not the right thing to do. Like, please feel free to ask for help. The community out there is so amazing. Like, when I was preparing, there were people that were waking up like 5 a.m. in order to be able to listen to me present and correct my presentations and tell me what I'm doing wrong. Like, I did not pay them a dime, but like, the community out there is just so beautiful. Like, thinking about it now, I'm just really emotional. Like, how are people this friendly and this nice? Like, people that don't even know you. I made a lot of friends in this journey, people that helped me. Like, it was just so beautiful. So please don't feel scared, don't feel afraid. Like, nobody's going to bite you, nobody's going to judge you. Like, everybody's going through the same thing. I cannot begin to mention all the names here, but if you are watching this video, shout outs to you. Thank you so much for making the journey so easy. It was so beautiful when I eventually saw my results, and I filmed myself live when I was checking my results. If you want to see that video, make sure you get this particular video to 1000 likes. So when this video is at 1000 likes, I would post that video, and I'm going to be revealing how many sessions I passed and what my score was as well. So if you want to see that video, leave it in the comment section and I will definitely post it for you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, to like this video, and to share this video to your friends. You can also follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Dr. Busola Deborah. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye. Mwah. What's the meaning of OSCE self? OSCE. OSCE. Alexa, what's the meaning of OSCE? OSCE is OSCE. I beg you people you understand.